The first thing that I actually have to do to introduce you to this animal is put on a pair of gloves. And you will see very quickly why that might be a good idea for me when I'm actually handling this animal. Even though she is not a dangerous animal, on the outside of her body, she has something pretty unique that helps her stay nice and safe where she might live in the wild. Wait, she's coming out already. This is pretty exciting. So when you first saw that animal, you might have just seen the sort of top of it, or maybe you just noticed it just like this. But if I actually turn her around, you can start to see a little face poking out of here. Now I'm wondering, yeah, a lot of people are telling me that she looks kind of cute, but do you think anybody out there could tell me what this animal is? If you think that you know, how about we first try just typing it into chat? I do see some hand raised, but will it be easier, Miss Melissa, if we have them use the chat feature when possible?
If you can use the chat feature, yep, you can type it in. If you can't, I'd like you to raise your hand and just keep your hand raised, and we'll call upon you when your hand is raised. Okay, everybody? Because some of our kiddos haven't gotten chat down just yet. But if you know it, type it in chat. If you know it, but you don't have it, raise your hand and we will open up your microphone, okay?
So I saw a couple of people out there on cameras get really excited, raise their hands right away like they knew what it was. And I'm seeing a lot of answers in chat too. This is a hedgehog. So those of you who were sharing that with me, nice work, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, close, right? Not so blue like Sonic though. This exact kind of hedgehog, we're gonna call an African pygmy hedgehog, because believe it or not, she's actually kind of small for the different kinds of hedgehogs that might exist around the world. There are 23 different kinds of hedgehogs in the world. And yeah, she's one of the smaller kinds. So, oh, she's popping out again. So let's give her a minute here to kind of be curious and see if she'll kind of look at our camera. When hedgehogs are first in a new place or in a place that they might feel a little bit nervous about, they coil themselves up in a big ball like this. Although it's not like Sonic, they can't roll super duper fast or anything like that when they're all coiled up. Instead, they stay really still coiled up in a ball. But as I'm sure you can notice, almost the entire outside of this animal's body is currently covered in these quills or spikes. And that would keep this animal very safe if it were around something that it might feel a little bit threatened by. Now, I can tell that she's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable about this space because she's starting to open up a little bit and starting to sort of uncoil herself. Oh yeah, and there's that little hedgehog face and that nose peeking out. Hedgehogs have terrific senses of smell. They have terrific hearing too. So the first thing that she's going to want to do to start to be curious about the space around her is stick that nose out. Oh yeah, you can kind of see that she's sniffing around. Oh, but as I bring my hand up back here, she's like, I'm not quite sure yet. All right, I'm gonna tuck back up into my ball again. Here, let's actually try this though. Let's set her down on the table so that my hands aren't moving around as much, and I bet she'll come out a little bit faster. So here's where I have this other fancy camera all set up and ready for us. So if I put her down, yep, that's a hedgehog hanging out in nature. If you were ever to stumble across one, that's probably what you would see right away. Oh yeah, but she's gonna start to come out really fast now, I think. This kind of hedgehog, they live on the ground. They aren't very good climbers, but if they need to, they can actually climb a tree a little bit. They also can swim, which when I learned that, I thought it was kind of silly because they don't really seem like a kind of animal that will be able to swim very good. But if they need to, they can. They prefer dry places though. So they prefer to live on the ground and actually hide out in burrows or underneath rocks or logs. I'm gonna bring my camera up here so we can get a nice little hedgehog view right here, so that we can really start to see that face when it starts to pop out. Oh, great question in chat too. You guys are already ahead of me here. I'm just still waiting for the hedgehog to come out. And you guys are always already asking me what sort of great questions, like what do they eat? All right, so let's see. If I lived on the ground, maybe in a burrow or underneath a rock or a log, I bet a really great snack to find might be something like, oh, an insect. They eat a lot of grubs or worms, small animals that they find on the ground like spiders too. They have been known even to eat small mice if they catch them. Or one of my favorite things to talk about is actually how they can even eat things like snakes and scorpions. Oh, look at that face. Now my camera's backwards here, so excuse me, friends. I'm having a little bit, there we go. Aha, there's that nose peeking out. And And they also will eat some kinds of plants too. So they'll eat different fruits or vegetables, and that would be a really great snack for them. But mostly they do like to eat bugs. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, ew, not necessarily what we humans are most interested in eating, although bugs are super duper healthy for these animals. So it's a great source of protein for them, and it's easy for them to find in the place that they live. If they're hanging out on the ground and they want to feel safe underneath a rock or a log, well, there's already bugs there to eat. It would be like if you felt safe in a house made out of pizza, and then when you got hungry, you could just eat the walls. That would be pretty great. So that's kind of what our hedgehog does. Okay, some people still don't think that sounds very delicious. I kind of agree, I guess, but hedgehogs, they love delicious things like that. All right, here, now that she's out, let's see if we can actually get her to explore a little bit for us, and we can watch her walk around. One of my favorite things to talk about with hedgehogs is actually that, not like Sonic, they're not as fast as Sonic, but they can be very fast. Oh no, you're just gonna curl up into a ball again? All right, well, let's bring you out in front of this other camera again. So they actually can move pretty fast when they want to, even though, like we said, they don't do that by rolling around, but this hedgehog can sprint up to 10 miles an hour, which is pretty fast for a human, let alone for an animal with such tiny little legs. They also move around a lot throughout their active time of the day. They've been known to run up to 5 miles every night. So while they might hang out underneath a log eating bugs, they also might explore a large space all throughout their forest looking for delicious things to eat. Now, I did say specifically during their active time of the day, because it's not the same time that you and I are most likely to be active. Hedgehogs are nocturnal. It means that they prefer to come out during the nighttime, or sometimes we could even use the word crepuscular. That means that they're most active during sunrise and sunset. So for the most part, hedgehogs prefer to be active when it's dark out, which is a great way to stay nice and safe too, because if you're running around on the ground in the dark, there's a lot less of a chance that an animal might find you and try to eat you. Hedgehogs do have some natural predators, even though these quills are great defense for them. One of the things that might most like to try to eat them might even be a nocturnal predator like an owl. So they need these great defenses in order to keep themselves safe, even though coming out at night is a little bit of a safer time of the day. Now, let's see, what else are we noticing? Oh yeah, she's definitely out now. She doesn't even kind of have the mohawk like Sonic has. I always thought that that was something that they kind of made up for Sonic, but turns out hedgehogs kind of have that. That way, when they tuck their heads in, they don't poke themselves with their quills. They actually only have quills on the very top of their body. And then now that she's totally out, you can see all along the side, it's a little bit more of just that fluffy fur. As a mammal, she has fur all over her body. All right. Oh, and look at that face. Now that she's really out too, you can even see those whiskers. That goes great with that excellent sense of smell, because if you have whiskers, then you can feel really close things to you. So as you're getting closer and closer and you're sniffing around, oh, maybe like sniffing this camera right here, then you can even feel what it might be too. All right. Yeah, lots of people are thinking that this is cool. I love it. This is so exciting. We have a lot more to talk about though, so let's keep going. All right, let's see. I forgot what I was going to say next though. Oh yeah, we were going to go back to see what she might be curious about eating, because I actually have some of her dinner with me right now. And since it is getting kind of dark out, I thought that this might be a good time of day to see if our hedgehog is hungry. If she's most active and hungry around sunset or at night, well, then she might eat for us, but no promises, my friends, because I never exactly know what time of the day they're going to start to feel hungry. But let's actually switch our camera back here, and we'll put her down and we will see if she would like one of the snacks that I brought for her. All right, so we're gonna spin our camera around here again one more time. Oh yeah, wait, no, come back. You can't just go underneath there and hide. All right, let's try this. So let's see, we said that she might like to eat bugs. So the first thing that we're gonna try to tempt her with, if she doesn't decide to wander off our camera here, the first thing that we're gonna try to tempt her with is a delicious insect. So let's see. Oh, I have let's move my camera a little bit here. I have a worm for her. Let's see if she would like to come out and maybe try that. So let's move our camera right in front of it. Now this thing that you're seeing right here is the pupa of a mealworm. So if anybody has any pet animals at home, maybe like a geckos or a gecko or a lizard or a bearded dragon, then you might already be familiar with mealworms as a source of food. All right, so we're gonna put that there, see if she gets interested. Oh, and I bet, oh, you see her nose pointing at it? It looks like maybe she smells it. Let's zoom in, get a good action shot here. You gonna eat it? Or maybe just stare at it, that's okay too. Oh, no, wrong direction, okay. We'll hang out, we'll see. Oh, maybe. Nope, walking away. That's okay, this is why we have a whole half an hour to hang out. I'm sure at some point she might get curious about it. Let's bring her back here though, and let's see if maybe there's a different thing that she might be interested in. Maybe instead of the worm, maybe we can try the adult beetle. Oh, that's gonna walk away fast though. Oh, and it's already off camera. Okay, I don't think she's interested in that either. Let's try one more thing though, because remember friends, I told you that she also might like to eat different kinds of plants. So I even brought some delicious pieces of apple. That might be a good thing for her to eat too. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. Oh, maybe. While we wait and see if she's hungry, there was a question in chat. Is it a girl or a boy? I'm referring to this hedgehog as a female. The females are larger than the males. So that's actually one of the ways that I can tell that this is a girl. She's actually kind of big and strong for the species that she is. She is about 1.5 to 2 years old. We're not exactly sure how old she is because she actually wasn't born at our nature center. So we don't know exactly when her birthday is, which is kind of sad, but we know that she is definitely younger than 2. And in the wild, they can live to be about 3 or 4 years old, but at our nature center and in most zoos and nature centers around, we always expect them to live at least 5 years. And sometimes they can actually live to be up to 10 years old. So hopefully she has a very long life of teaching in front of her today, or in front of her. But let's see. I guess she's not feeling hungry today, and that's okay. I wasn't super expecting her to eat. She doesn't normally eat for us, but since I was calling with you friends a little bit later in the day, I thought that I'd try. Normally, though, they prefer to wake up around like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and that's actually when they'll start to eat. So sometimes if I'm visiting the nature center super late at night, that is when they are having their delicious snack. Or because in the wild, they have to run around so much at night looking for food, they actually have hamster wheels in their home at our nature center too, so that they can run on a hamster wheel, which is actually kind of ridiculous to think about with these really short legs that they have. But like we said, they are fast runners. All right, I think I've got all the questions so far. There aren't more animals today. We're just talking about this one animal, our hedgehog today. But it's kind of interesting that we might mention this animal because in nature, there are a lot of animals that look like hedgehogs. So I did kind of want to just for a minute, think about some of the other animals that you all might have thought of when you first looked at her. For example, I know sometimes people think about animals like porcupines, and they think that porcupines and hedgehogs are related because they both have these big quills on their bodies that help them stay nice and safe. But they're actually not. There are a lot of really big differences between porcupines and hedgehogs. Let me actually show you a picture first before we get too in depth into this. I'm wondering if anybody thought, bring my camera back here, hang on one second. If I actually were to show you all a picture like this, I'm wondering if anybody has seen an animal like this, or maybe could tell me anything about this animal.
If you've seen one and you can't use the chat, raise your hand and we'll unmute you, okay? If you know what this animal is, raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Or use the chat.
It's a porcupine.
That's a porcupine. How did you know that that was a porcupine and not a hedgehog?
Because we thought the hedgehog was a porcupine at first.
Oh, you thought the hedgehog was a porcupine at first. Yeah, a lot of people think that. It's true. But check out on these quills. Here, I'm going to take my gloves off so it's a little bit easier to see. The quills on the porcupine's body are almost as long as its body. Now, that's just one big difference. When I first met this hedgehog, who actually just kind of ran away back to hide in a big pile of blankets, so we're going to get her back out again so we can look at her quills one last time here, up close, super close here. Look at that. They're really short, aren't they? And porcupines, when they get nervous, they can actually lose their quills. and they'll use them to sort of jab and stab at an animal that might be a predator to them. Hedgehogs can't do that. These quills are going to be on our hedgehog's body for her entire life. She won't ever lose these or grow new ones. So instead of being able to have them be really painful, actually, toward an animal that might be a predator, she does something a little different with her quills. And it's probably my favorite thing that I know about hedgehogs. Here's what happens. She will spit out a bunch of like foam. It almost looks like she brushed her teeth and she has like a bunch of like foamy toothpaste in her mouth. And she'll spit it out onto her feet. And then she'll actually use her feet and rub the sides of her body. So she gets that foam all over her body. And then that foam is all over her quills too. Now, that foam can make things kind of itchy when they touch it, which is one of the reasons too that I actually wear gloves. Not only is she just always kind of pokey, but that foam could make me itchy if I touched her. But in the wild, they don't use just their spit foam. Instead, sometimes they will eat things that are poisonous or venomous, and then they'll take the venom from that thing and put that on their bodies too. So even though hedgehogs are not poisonous or venomous with their quills, they can actually get the venom of an animal like a snake or a frog and put that on their bodies and use another animal's defense as a way to keep themselves safe. It's kind of like adapting and making your own superpowers. Now, at our nature center, since she's not around any kind of poisonous snake or spider that she could eat and get its venom on her body to protect herself, she's actually not venomous. But in the wild, you never know what sorts of things they might be using on their bodies for defense. So they are very adaptable in that way, which is pretty exciting. Are there any questions too? I know we have just a few minutes left, so I don't want to make sure that I get too off topic here. Are there any questions that people might be wondering about this animal? All right, I'll hang out a minute and I'll wait and see if anything pops up in chat too. And then something else that you can be curious about too, since I actually help take care of this animal, you can be curious about what she eats or anything like that at our nature center. If not, I'm going to keep talking about them in the wild. Okay, not really. Perfect. Then let's move on. All right, so not only could she use that venom to protect herself with her quills, but she can actually eat poisonous and venomous things that a lot of other animals can't eat. So remember how we said that she might like to live on the ground underneath rocks and logs and maybe eat things like spiders or scorpions? Well, she can eat them, even though a spider or a scorpion might be venomous. It wouldn't matter to her. So she's sort of like immune to a lot of natural poisons and venoms, which is another pretty great superpower to have, right? I always thought that that having something like venom in your body would make you just immune to a predator. But in nature, there's almost always a way that another animal gets around some of those special adaptations. So while a spider might protect itself by being venomous, this animal can eat that. And then sometimes this animal can use that venom for her own good too. It's pretty exciting. All right, let's see. What else have we not talked about yet? Ooh, there's another animal that we could maybe think about too. This might be a tricky one. Let's see if anybody recognizes this one. Instead of switching my camera, I'm just going to hold the picture up this time. Does anybody think that they know what this one is? I'll be very impressed. A kiwi. Oh, that's an excellent guess. I bet you are saying that because of that long mouth, right? These animals live in some of the same places that kiwis do, but this one is not a bird. So that's actually not a long beak that you see. That is in fact a mouth. That's a great question. Oh, and a mole, also a great guess. These animals are related to moles.
Does anyone else have a guess of what this animal is? Dakota and Darius?
Yes.
What do you think it is?
What it is? I think it a platypus.
That's a good guess too. It's not a platypus, but it is an echidna. That's one of the closest living relatives to a platypus. Wow, I am really impressed with these guesses. Platypus and kiwi, those were actually like way better guesses than I have ever gotten from any group when I've asked them if they could tell me what this is. So nice work, guys. Yeah, echidnas. Echidnas also have these long quills on their bodies. So this is another kind of animal that sometimes people mistake for hedgehogs. But the bonkers thing about echidnas is that they lay eggs. They are one of the only kinds of animals that we would consider to be a mammal that lays eggs like a bird. Platypus is another example of one. However, hedgehogs, because they are more of the traditional idea of a mammal, they have live birth. They do not lay eggs. They can have up to 10 babies at a time. And when the babies are born, the babies actually already have quills growing on their bodies. So when they're born in a little mucus membrane to protect the mom and the other babies so that nobody gets poked when they are born, which is kind of interesting to think about, and also a little bit gross to think about, because that means all of the little babies are born in this like little slimy membraney pouch. And then after they are a couple months old, they'll lose their first set of quills, and then they grow their adult quills. So it's kind of like how us humans actually lose some of our teeth, and then we grow new adult teeth in. So that's how it works for this hedgehog too. And then when she finally gets her adult set of quills in, those are the tough, pointy ones that stay with her for her whole life. Yeah, any final questions? I'll pause again and see if there might be anything else you guys would be curious about.
If you have a question and you don't want to type it in, raise your hand and I'll unmute you one at a time. Just keep your hand raised if you have a question. Athens, okay, what's your question, bud?
Oh, could they ever like lose quills or something?
Can you say that a little bit louder for me? I couldn't hear you.
Could they ever like lose quills?
Can they ever lose their quills?
Oh, can they lose their quills? Yeah, they can. They don't intentionally lose their quills the way a porcupine does. So if a porcupine gets nervous, it'll actually point its quills in the direction of a potential predator, and it'll jab its body back. And when the quills make contact with the animal's body, the quills actually are pulled out of the porcupine's body, and they stay in the animal that the porcupine is attacking. The hedgehog, she would use her quills to poke at an animal, but they're not barbed the way a porcupine's quills are, and they don't come out of her skin. Her quills are actually embedded in a thick, strong layer of muscle in her body. So she can control them and move them, and it would be painful for her to actually lose them. So they stay with her. The only time a hedgehog might lose one is when it starts to get old, the way sometimes humans might start to lose some of their hair. Hedgehogs might start to lose some of their quills as they get older. And it can just be a sign that they're aging. Like we said, though, they don't live very long in the wild, so it never ends up becoming an issue in the wild for them. But in captivity, because they can live so much longer, sometimes a really old hedgehog might look a little bit bald. And that's okay, because if they're in captivity, they also don't need those quills to keep themselves safe either. That's a really cool question, though. Thank you for asking. Any others?
Does anyone else have a question? If you have a question, raise your hand.
While we hang out, I'm going to switch my camera again one more time, because something that you haven't had a chance to see yet is actually how she might burrow, and it's pretty cute. So when I brought her over to my TV studio, actually from our nature center, I carried her in this big bin that was filled with a blanket, and it's just sort of a nice safe place for her to kind of hang out on our walk over. And I bet, wow, this camera's still backwards and just totally throwing me off here. And I bet as we sort of take a look and watch her, you might actually see her burrow or bury herself a little bit. It's kind of cute. Or she might just sit really still, because you never know exactly what animals are going to do. Oh, there we go. She might explore. Cool. Yeah, as we wait for that, were there any other questions?
Does anybody have a question? Oh, Arrow, you do. Okay, Arrow, unmute yourself. And what's your question, bud?
What age do they live up to?
Ooh, good question. So in the wild, they could live to be around 3 or 4 years old, which I know doesn't sound very old compared to a lot of the other animals that we might know about, like humans can live a really long time. But that's actually a pretty good age, 3 or 4 in the wild. But at our nature center or at a zoo, we would always expect them to live at least 5 years and hopefully up to 10 years. At our nature center, though, she doesn't have to worry about predators like hyenas, badgers, or owls. So she gets to live a lot longer because of that. Yeah, great question.
All right, everybody. Well, we only have like a little less than 1 minute left. So I'm going to have everybody quietly. I'm going to unmute everybody. I need you all to quietly, so that we're respecting our hedgehog friend, say thank you, okay?
Whisper voice.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If we can get one last peek at
Thank
her
you.
face before we all go. One of the fun things about working with hedgehogs. All right.
All right. Thank you, Miss
Yep.
Lisa, for showing us our first little pygmy hedgehog. And thank you, little hedgehog, for being our special guest today.
Woohoo. Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. I love talking about our hedgehogs. They're a pretty silly animal to talk about because they spend so much time kind of curled up. But then when they really start to feel safe and curious, it's so exciting to see those little faces.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. And all the kiddos, we'll see you all next time. And all of the tutors, we'll see you as well. Thank you for hanging out today.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.